If you guys have been around the channel for a little while, you might have seen this Model Y floating around in the background. Well, the time has come. We've decided we're going to put it back on the road. Originally, this was going to be a donor vehicle for us, but the collision damage was light enough that the airbags weren't deployed, even the windshield wasn't broke. So the majority of the repair is essentially cosmetic, so we're just going to put it back on the road. Now, I don't have someone following me around with a camera. Everything here is kind of a one-man show. I do all the back-end editing and shooting. So there is going to be stuff that I haven't documented very well, such as the teardown process. But this is what we're left with. For those of you who haven't been able to see one tore apart yet, this is a 2022 Model Y with the mega cast front end. So this is the all aluminum cast front end. This one has the heat pump as well. And I'm gonna let you follow along with some of the rebuild process. Included in that, I have a spindle and a driver's side axle to replace, so you'll be able to see that process as well. Not all the parts have shown up from Tesla yet. We're still waiting on some things. However, we do have the radiator here, so I'm gonna get started by hanging the rad in this so I can get the coolant filled and bled, because the battery is down to, easy girl. The battery is down to about 8%, and I'd like to get it charged up. So we're gonna get it filled up with coolant and bled so I can start charging the battery. With the rad installed, we got to bleed the cooling system. Now there is a little bleed procedure built into service mode in these, but I like to get as much air out of it as possible before the pump starts circulating, and then just forcing that air around the whole system. So fairly simple process. What I do is I just overfill the reservoir as much as possible, and then I take the highest coolant line that I can access. In this case, it's right where the autopilot computer is, and then I just plug off the line here and apply a vacuum on the other side of it with just a simple vacuum pump. And you should be able to watch the reservoir drop here. I'm pulling the air out. Reconnect our line, and then I can start the bleed procedure. So the coolant bleed just requires you to get into service mode. If you guys have never seen that before, there's a bunch of really neat things available to you. So all you do is hit the car icon, software, and click and hold on the Model Y for 5 seconds. Type in your access code. Okay. This is the service menu. So for the coolant, we're going to go into thermal. We want to do coolant system. There's a diagram of all the coolant circulating. So when I first tried this, that noise that you heard on the very first intro, easy girl, was the coolant pumps actually seized solid. So the system was trying to run the coolant pumps, and it kept resetting, and they were in fact seized solid. So when I first did this, you can see these two pumps here showing RPM. When I first did it, they were red, reading absolutely nothing. So that told me that they were being commanded to run, but they were in fact seized solid. So I did replace both of those coolant pumps. I didn't get a chance to video any of that, but I think what happened was when this thing got into an accident, it probably sat in the yard, and lots of times I've seen those unplugged before just because they make noise. These must have been running essentially until they burned themselves out. So one other thing I want to show you, so yeah, when you want to do the coolant, it's just a cycle you got to run from this page. One other cool thing I want to show you though is if you get one of these things involved in an accident and a lot of stuff isn't working, or you see a lot of codes in it, lots of times what you have to do is something called a load shed reset. So what we'll do is we'll go back out of this. We'll go into the low voltage power distribution, and this shows you the whole low voltage system. So everything's green in this, everything's looking fine. This is the menu you need to do post-crash load set. So what happens is when it's in a crash, when it senses it's been in a crash, in order for it to maintain the battery as long as possible, it starts killing circuits. So it knocks out, as many circuits as possible, shedding the loads as it would be, just so it preserves the battery for the longest time. In the earlier ones, 2020, I think 2021, that was not resettable. You would actually have to replace that VC front. In this, I can actually reset the VC front, left and right, and then clear that load shed. So that's, if you get something that was involved in a wreck and you see a bunch of errors regarding VC front. Typically it's VC front, but any of those VC modules, you can in fact reset them on this 22 and I think 2023 models as well. I would assume going forward. Yeah, so that's a neat little feature in the service menu. So to exit this, we just press and hold this button, and we're back. All right, we switched bays. We just got the last crash can in that we were waiting for, so I'm gonna start bolting parts on this thing. First thing I gotta do is I gotta get this rad kind of just hanging there out of place, because the two main crash cans need to go in first, and the bolts go in this direction, so the rad's kind of in the road for that. So I'm gonna get the rad hanging there, crash cans in, and then we're gonna start bolting parts onto this. Maybe the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the cover put on this, put on the rad. I didn't put this on initially because I was waiting on this little temp sensor goes inside here. It's just an ambient temp sensor, but this goes inside here and a wire pokes through there. So I needed that before I could snap this piece on. So nothing goes in tight yet. Everything goes in just finger tight, slightly snug, because everything does shift around a fair amount until we get everything else bolted to it that attaches to this. You can see how this would be so much easier if I didn't have the rad in place ahead of time, but I wanted to get this battery charged up. Now that these crash cans are tight, we got to take this front impact bar off so we can get the big plastic carrier in, and then we can start attaching the lower aluminum stuff. So this plastic piece and the lower ankle catcher kind of need to go in at the same time. that plastic piece in, we can now bolt the bottom of the rad into place. All right, that's pretty much the hard parts replacement. I'm just gonna put the air assembly and the tub kind of in this just so they're out of my office. Maybe what we'll do is we'll call that part 1. I don't like dragging these videos on for too long. I'm sure everybody's attention span probably kind of wanes at the 10-minute mark. I'm sure you've probably seen enough of my pants sagging and my boxers anyway, so let's call that part 1. Part 2, when the fenders and bumper show up, I will, I guess, just fit those in. Maybe show you that process, fit those in, put the headlights in, and then strip those back down off to the paint shop, and then just a quick little final assembly video for you. So yeah, I'll just chuck these last couple of parts in. Ooh, that closes nice.